We are live on the Bullpen Podcast. Welcome into another fun show with my main man, Adam Kunos at Kunos19 on the Twitter box. Like I've told you guys, he's the uh, wisest mind in baseball. I won't say he's the smartest man in baseball, but this dude remembers shit that I have long since forgotten, and many people have. So if you ever were like, "Oh man, I should Google something about baseball," just ask Adam. He knows. Uh, I am your host, Chris Krogman at Shy Bears 1985. We are the Bullpen Podcast at the Bullpen Pod on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. We're sponsored by Fanatics. Head on over to Fanatics. Follow the link in our Twitter bio for all your Major League Baseball gear. Get yourself some City Connect stuff. Get yourself, your second half jerseys for your team making a playoff push, or maybe your team's calling up a hot prospect, and you can go grab their jersey and really root for your squad the second half of the season. It's always more fun when you're repping your team, especially out in public, and you get comments on your jerseys. Jerseys always get comments, man. Every time I wear a jersey out in public, I get somebody either with a jackass comment, which is more often than not if I'm at a watering hole, or a oh hey yeah go team, whatever, if I'm out in Costco or whatever. So we are kicking off second half of the season today after an awesome All-Star break. But first, Adam, fucking Diamondbacks gear. What the hell, man? Are you throwing away the socks already? I would, but
I'm
you're
actually
loyal,
not.
so
I am not because they actually had a
how are
good
you?
series. I'm doing good, by the way. I mean, so I actually got a new some White Sox gear over the weekend for my birthday, late birthday gift, a new keyboard and mouse set for my desk.
I saw
So
that. It looked pretty cool.
yeah, I got the 17th or the Black Sox throwback. So I am not throwing away the White Sox. They had an amazing series against the Twins to close out the first half. They finished at 500. They pick up some ground against the Twinkies, and their offense finally woke the fuck up.
Yeah, Cease pitched well. Kopech didn't, right? Kopech got rocked. Is that right? Is that correct? Or am I
Um,
misremembering that?
I would have to go back and look at it again.
This White Sox fan, come on, man. I can't. No, I know who the Mets closed against. They beat the brakes off that other fucking team from Chicago. It was that they actually did not beat the brakes off of them. I think they scored a total of like 10 runs in 4 games. It was pathetic, but glad to hear you're doing well, my friend. How was your All-Star break festivities? We started Sunday night with the Major League Baseball draft. I can't remember if this is the first year they've televised it. First year that ESPN has covered it, from what I remember, and having it be, more of a festivity than it has been in the past. I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but the baseball draft was like for the longest time just like not even a thing. And if you've watched like Moneyball or any of the old show, like guys used to sit in their offices and just call out picks on the phone, and it, it was nothing. It was really a nothing event for the longest time. It used to be 60 some rounds, or they would just pick until people didn't want to anymore. Like it was a weird event. I've been following baseball my pretty much my whole life. I love, everybody loves to prospect hug. I mean, let's be honest. But you always want to see your team's young talent, and following the draft was just one of those things. Baseball America, that publication has been around forever, so they cover the shit out of the draft. Used to have a subscription to that, so that was a lot of fun. But Mike Piazza famously is like was like a 61st round draft pick. So now he's down to 20 rounds. There's a lot of comp picks and things in there as well. So, Adam, did you watch the MLB draft?
I did. It's actually the first time I got a chance to watch the entire first round. So, quick little history recap of the draft. So this was the first time that the draft was held in an outdoor event. For the last couple of years, it was held in Studio 42 at the MLB Network Studios. Before that, it was held at ESPN Wide World of Sports in the Milk House, which is now the HP Fieldhouse. I believe there's also a new name to it. I have no idea, but I did almost get a chance to go to the draft in 2006 when I first moved down to Florida. Unfortunately, the stars did not align for me. I was not able to go. Yeah, so if you followed the page over this past weekend, we were tweeting out every first round draft pick, the player, where they're getting drafted from, position, and which team they were going to. So thank you to everyone who was helping with the retweets, the likes, and followed our page. To all of our followers, thank you for an amazing All-Star weekend. We appreciate the support on the page. So I actually love this year's draft just because it actually felt like a draft. Not like overtaking the NFL draft or the NBA draft, but it did hold its own in just the way it was covered. I ended up watching the ESPN coverage of it, and I thought that MLB did a very nice job with it. We did get a chance to see some players get the jersey, get the hat, go up, give the commissioner a hug, and get that first photo with the commissioner. A lot of players were at home. So, Chris, you ready for a little breakdown of the draft and just what happened in the first round?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, in the first round alone, we had 9 pitchers drafted, 20 position players. We had I believe our first two-way player drafted, first baseman, pitcher drafted as well. And then there were, out of the first round picks, 11 picks were high school players. And we had one player who was a draft pick from last year, opted not to sign, went back to school, and actually got picked higher than his previous year.
He didn't opt not to sign. The team opted
did
not to sign him.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Team not signed. Kumar Rocker, right-hand pitcher from Vanderbilt, was drafted by the Mets 10th overall last year. The Mets chose not to sign him, so he went back to school and actually jumped up 5 picks to go to the Rangers. 7 picks to go to the Rangers at number 3.
Right. He actually went to he had surgery on his arm because the issue last year with Kumar Rocker, and I was kind of bitter because he looked like he was just going to be ridiculous. He had a 19 strikeout no-hitter in the College World Series, I think 2 years ago. So he looked like he was just going to be an absolutely phenomenal pitcher when the Mets took him. So super excited as a Mets fan. Kind of a weird signing process. They found so a lot of pitchers going into the draft don't release their medical information. And Rocker was one of those guys who did not. Mets drafted him. They kind of were uneasy about the medicals. And since he did not release his medicals, that gave the Mets the option to not sign him and get a compensatory pick in the first round this year at the same spot or close. They got 11 this year in this year's draft for Rocker not signing last year or not signing Rocker last year. But the only reason I bring that up is because of the medical rules. So back to Rocker himself. He actually didn't go back to Vanderbilt. He went and played in the independent league after he had surgery, only had a few starts. But yeah, like Adam said, was drafted 7 picks higher by the Texas Rangers. So they must have either liked what they saw in the few starts in the independent league or felt very comfortable with his medicals post-surgery. But good for Kumar Rocker, good for his family and everything like that, being drafted 3rd overall by the Rangers. So fantastic for him. Adam, I'm not sure if this happened Sunday night. I don't think so, but I saw there was I I don't know if this is the first time this has ever been, but an ambidextrous pitcher was taken. He throws 93 miles an hour left-handed and 96 miles an hour right-handed.
Interesting.
Bananas, dude. I think he was taken by Baltimore.
I'll have to look that up real quick. Give me a minute to look that up.
No problem. I'll talk about some other draft picks. So number 1 overall was Jackson Holliday, son of Matt Holliday, former MLB great. Number 2 overall, the Arizona Diamondbacks took Drew Jones, son of former Atlanta Brave Andrew Jones. High school, both those guys are high school players. And then, like we mentioned, Rangers took Kumar Rocker. Number 4 overall, the Pirates took Tamar Johnson, second baseman out of Mays High School. Very talented shortstop. Would love to, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. He played shortstop in high school. I apologize. He'll probably move to second base in the pros if he's fast-tracked, which, he is a high school player. But you have O'Neal Cruz at short in Pittsburgh, and then you have Cabrian Hayes at third base in Pittsburgh. That, infield, as long as Johnson pans out fairly quickly, could be really, really fun for a long time. Nationals rounded out the top 5 with Elijah Green, center fielder from IMG Academy in Florida. And we'll talk a little bit about MLB.com's top 6 teams with the best draft hauls. Adam, have you found the ambidextrous pitcher that I'm talking? Man, I'm not making this up, my guy.
I think I saw in a tweet when I was like, I'm just doing some homework and getting some studying done on the weekend, and I just kind of like glanced at and then I lost the tweet. So,
so his name is Pat Venditti. Wait a minute, this ain't the dude, is it? No. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. What? No. Anyway, that's not the right guy. What the heck is this kid's name?
No, we'll find that information. We'll get it out to you guys when we find it. I know
it's Gerangelo Shinty. Yeah. He was switch pitcher. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Not sure where he got drafted, but he went to school in Florida. He's 19 years old. I do believe he got drafted by the Orioles, but I'm not 100% sure. And then the other,
what was the name again?
It's spelled Cjinte, Gerangelo Ginty.
Brewers, I believe the Brewers.
Brewers.
18th
Baltimore Brewers. It was a B word. Other interesting pitcher that went in the draft was it Brandon Joyce from Tennessee, the kid that throws 105 miles an hour?
Yeah, I was a little skeptical on that pick just because of how hard he's throwing. If I'm a pitching coach, I'm working with him on just not overthrowing his arms too quickly in a game, because you throw that philosophy for what an average pitcher throws 80 pitches a game.
Dude, he's a bullpen arm.
Well, yeah, okay. Then if he's a bullpen arm, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I would make that dude either a closer or a setup guy. If you saw
middle
the
reliever.
All-Star game, yeah, middle reliever, whatever. If you saw the All-Star game, and Hensley for the Cardinals was throwing 103 miles an hour. The kid for the Indians throwing 100-mile-an-hour cutter at the end of the game. Absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, Brandon Joyce throwing 105. I would make him a closer. You throw any amount of changeup, I think his changeup is like 91 miles an hour. It's a 14-mile-an-hour difference, and it's still pretty hard.
I mean, the fact that you're seeing high schoolers or like college kids in like their first couple of years hitting triple digits or getting close to like 80s, 90s. When I was in high school, I could barely hit 70 on a good day.
I don't know if I ever broke 70. I never had that big of an arm. But yeah. So interesting players taken in this year's draft. But the teams with that MLB.com had as their top 6 teams with the best draft results. Number 1 was the New York. Is this in order or is this just 6 random teams?
This is in order. So I got this off of MLB.com. This is in order. And I think it's a little biased that, well, I'll let you read the first team and you can see my reaction.
So the New York Mets are the team first. Catcher out of Georgia Tech, Kevin Parada was their first pick. Shortstop Jet Williams was their second pick. And Nick Morabite was their, I think it was that he was actually their 4th pick. They had another one in there.
I actually like that 4th pick by the Mets. I thought that was a good pick by the Mets. So that's actually one of my favorite picks that the Mets did over this past weekend.
Well, that's just lovely to hear. And number 2 was the Arizona Diamondbacks took Drew Jones, Landon Sims, pitcher, and then Ivan Melendez was a first baseman. Number 3 was the Texas Rangers with Kumar Rocker. They took Brock Porter, high school pitcher who a lot of people had as a first rounder, but he is signed to go to college. But if the Rangers can entice him with a deal, that's a great pick. They also took Chandler Pollard, outfielder. The Reds came in 4th. Cam Collier, another high school player, actually graduated early and played a year of college ball last year, is a third baseman, but he's only 17 years old. Could still end up going to college, but first round pick, 17th overall. If they can sway him with some dollars, he could be a great pick. Sal Stewart, another third baseman for the Reds, and then Logan Tanner, a catcher. And then 5th was the Cleveland Guardians, took Chase DeLauder, outfielder, Justin Campbell, pitcher, and Parker Messick, another pitcher. Finally, the San Diego Padres coming in 6th, took Dylan Lesko, pitcher, Rob Snelling, pitcher, Adam Mazar, pitcher. All pitchers for the Padres.
Yeah, so a couple things to just remember about some of these drafts. Not all these draft picks will probably still be with the same team if and when, and I say that very cautiously on if and when they make it to the major leagues. I think you very rarely see a player get drafted by the original team and climb the farm system into the major league levels. Mm-hmm. There's so much movement around with minor league players. They get thrown in with deals for some veterans, for some star players. So there's a good chance that some of these players that we just listed off will probably not be with that team that they got drafted with. They may even not even get out of single or double A in all reality.
For sure. Baseball has the highest failure rate highest draft failure rate of any sport. 50% of first-round players never make it to the major leagues, so they don't even touch the field. That is a scary investment, especially when they're paying these guys quite a bit of money. Adam, what was the next All-Star festivity event that we're going to talk about?
So I think it's the premier All-Star event everyone looks forward to, and that was the Home Run Derby. That was the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, if you want to get politically sponsorship correct. Anyway, but we had the Home Run Derby. Outstanding lineup for this year's Home Run Derby. We had Julio Rodriguez from Seattle, Corey Seager from Texas, Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Braves. The polar bear Pete Alonso was the 2-time defending champ from the Mets. Jose Ramirez from the Guardians, Juan Soto from the Nationals, or depending on who your team is, future left fielder for your team. Albert Pujols of the Cardinals and Kyle Schwarber of the Phillies. So, first round breakdown. Julio Rodriguez versus Corey Seager. Julio Rodriguez, oh my God, came out just hitting the ball and just hitting every pitch. 32 home runs in the first round. His longest was 463 feet. The hardest home run he hit was 109 miles an hour.
Yeah, super impressive. Julio Rodriguez, they said in this after the second or third round that he was seeing about 10 more pitches than everybody else, and was just super efficient. So, yeah, 32 home runs in round one, just destroyed Seager and was bombing the ball. I mean, his home runs were shots. I mean, he got the extra time. 30 seconds for one 440-foot home run, and then I think he hit two more in the first round, so he ended up getting the bonus minute. And he crushed the ball. Looked great.
Yeah, he outdueled Corey Seager, who had 24 home runs. Then you had Pete Alonso going up against Ronald Acuna Jr., so a little NL East action. Alonso ousted Acuna by 1 home run, 2019. Alonso's longest was 480. Hardest was 115. You had Jose Ramirez and Juan Soto. Again, Juan Soto, and if you watched the Home Run Derby, you saw a theme with Juan Soto. Walked it off in extra time over Jose Ramirez, 18-17. And then you had the machine, Albert Pujols against Kyle Schwarber, and this actually went to a swing off. So that each player had 13 home runs at the end. And then Pujols ends up ousting Schwarber by 1 home run to make it to the second round. But we're just going to fast forward to the finals. You had Julio Rodriguez versus Juan Soto. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better final, in my opinion, of those two young players. I mean, you got a rookie making his first ever appearance in a home run derby, just hitting the ball absolutely, but going bananas in this derby. And then you got Juan Soto, who's sitting back just relaxing and walks it off in 3 straight rounds to win the home run derby. I mean, it was just unbelievable how phenomenal this derby was, in my opinion. Although I did find it funny when they were introducing the players, they were kind of a little scared of the flames going up behind them from the.
Yeah, because Acuna almost got caught on fire.
I mean, those jerseys are 100% polyester, so they'll catch on fire pretty quick.
Rodriguez ousted defending champ Pete Alonso, and then Soto outlasted Pujols in the second round, and that actually got pretty interesting. I think without the extra time, he doesn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But Rodriguez had hit 63 home runs up until that point, dropped 14 in the finals, and then had 30 seconds extra time. I think he ended up with 17 or 18. And then Soto, he started out so cold. I mean, he was just hitting line drive after line drive, and then finally got into a groove, started bombing, and ended up winning 1918. It was a really fun home run derby, Adam, like you said.
So some interesting facts from this derby. Julio Rodriguez led the participants with 81 home runs. He was 10 shy of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who had 91 in 2019 in Cleveland. We all know that Albert Pujols is in his final season, so his final derby appearance, his stats were 28 home runs. His longest was 476. Hardest home run was 104 miles an hour. He doesn't hit his hard as he was when he was coming up with the Cardinals, but he can still drive the ball a good amount out of the park. So total were 219 home runs, average of 416 feet apiece. The total distance was 22.9 miles. That's enough to get a Southern California nearly 3/4 of the way down Interstate 5 between Dodger Stadium and Angel Stadium. So they can get 3/4 of the way to Angel Stadium or Dodger Stadium and say, fuck it, I'm going to walk the rest of the way. Because it's probably faster if you've ever been on the 5. I've never been on the 5, but I've seen pictures and video. Holy shit. It's like I-4 down here in Florida. It just doesn't move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I would want to ride a baseball though.
No, probably not. I mean, very uncomfortable in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, great home run derby. Then we also had the celebrity softball game. If you were on YouTube watching the celebrities play softball, okay, I just have to say, between the Futures game and the Celebrity All-Star game, what the hell were you thinking with those two-tone color jerseys that just, like half white, half like neon yellow? Like, what the fuck was Nike thinking?
It's Nike, dude.
I mean, that's true. Although
It's the Oregon Ducks thing. They just
yeah,
like to be flashy and big, and it's Nike. That's what they
although I
do.
did like that they did pay homage to the Brooklyn Dodgers, with one team in the celebrity softball game being Brooklyn, the other being the LA Dodgers. So they did play homage to that. They also paid a tribute to Jackie Robinson on the 75th anniversary of his color barrier. And again, we wish a belated happy birthday to his wife, Rachel Robinson, who turned 100. So, I mean, great All-Star game. Well, we're going to transition to the actual game itself. A great pregame ceremony for Jackie Robinson. You had the All-Star inductions, which are always just fun to watch. You got the reserves that are announced first, and you got the players for the lineups. A lot of fanfare going into it. So Chris, we tweeted out predictions for the final score. I said 9-7 because I was expecting an offensive explosion. It ended up being a pitching duel for this game.
I told you.
I was way off on my prediction. I was hoping there'd be an offensive outburst with just the amount of power that you had in the American League and the National League. I was hoping balls be flying out left and right.
Yeah, but like all those guys can hit home runs, but they can't hit for shit for average. And you have the best pitchers in baseball throwing them the baseball. So, and they only throw like an inning at a time. So they can go out there, they can give it their all. They can throw as hard as they want or as nasty as they want. And there's really no long-term repercussions for them. So you had a couple. The National League finally came out and scored first in the first inning with 2 runs. And then, in the third or fourth inning, you had Giancarlo Stanton and Byron Buxton go back-to-back home runs. Stanton with a 2-run shot, absolute fucking monster blast.
Oh, he destroyed that ball.
And then Buxton followed him up and hit a home run, and that was the last runs of the game.
Yeah, I mean,
that was it. 3-2, done.
And then obviously you had what I think one of my favorite parts of the game, mic'd up players during the game, which I just think it's awesome to hear. One of our favorites was Liam Hendriks. If you remember him from last year, not PG friendly on the mic last year when he was in Colorado. Because if you ever hear him pitching and he doesn't get a pitch he likes, he is not shy about it.
Very vocal human being.
Very vocal, and that's why I love him.
Yeah, he's Australian or New Zealand.
No, he's Australian. He's down under.
He's down under. He likes to drink his fastest and yell at the umpire. I'm getting Boston related, but anyway, yeah, fun All-Star game this year. Lots of star-studded event. It's kind of surprising with all of the. I think the roster for the American League was probably top to bottom better. The pitching for the National League might have been better, but the All-Star MVP was Giancarlo Stanton for his 2-run home run. Really couldn't give it to anybody else. I mean, like I said, these pitchers only throw for an inning or two at a time. They don't even throw for 2. The teams don't even get all of their pitchers in. I know Edwin Diaz for the Mets didn't get any mound time. So, man, it's just something to watch and have fun with. And if you are a gambling person, you bet on the under because they have not hit the over in I think it's like 6 years now. So the over was 7.5 runs. Adam tried to blow past that with 16 runs, and it's just let's just no,
This
that's
is
not gonna happen.
this is why I don't gamble. I mean,
Well, I bet on Juan Soto. I also bet on the AL and the under. So I I did well on an exhibition game. I would never bet on like the Pro Bowl or the NBA All Star
oh
game.
good lord, no. I
But
mean, you talk about. Okay, so we all know that the Pro Bowl needs to be fixed. I think the NFL has done very little to fix it. They have a good skills competition, in my opinion, but the actual game itself needs to be fixed. I mean, either scrap the game or just go on full skills competition for 2 straight days.
that's what I think they should do because like asking these guys to go out and hit each other and like for what? Like there's no reason for them to be playing hard
No, and then
or
you got
anything.
the NBA All Star Game, which is pretty much just a pickup game of how many times can we shoot a 3-hand, who has the
And
best
alley oop the
dunk.
ball.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna alley oop every single time.
That's fun. That's way
Um,
more fun.
and the at least the NHL All Star Game is a little competitive when you pair the divisions against each other and they play in a tournament style. All Star Game, which I actually love, and then obviously the MLB All Star Game is ALNL. MLS, they usually pair up the MLS All Stars versus an international team, which is good, which can be really good games. So, and then Chris, we have some shocking. Well, I'm not sure if it's shocking breaking news, but some breaking news from our friend Jeff Passan over at ESPN. You ready for this?
If is there a trade right now?
No, but Dallas Keuchel has been designated for assignment by the Arizona Diamondbacks.
How's that breaking news, bro?
He only had 4
That's only
starts.
breaking news for you because you're a White Sox / Arizona Diamondbacks fan.
Okay, so I find this interesting because he was let go by the White Sox early in the season. Arizona picked him up, 4 starts, and they dropped him already. And someone said, future Mariner.
No, fucking want nothing to do with him.
I don't think that Keuchel could get picked up, but you have to look at who's going to pick him up because his velocity, he has been on the decline since 2020. And I think 2021, he just struggled from the outguess of the season. So, but I think that's a good segue into, let's talk the second half of the season, Chris.
Okay. What can we talk about, Adam?
All right, so let's look at some of our divisions that we see. I'm going to start with the AL East.
Okay.
Do we think the AL East can put 4 teams in the playoffs this year?
No.
Who gets left out?
Boston's so damn inconsistent. It's probably Boston.
I'm going to think Toronto. I think Toronto is just as inconsistent as Boston.
No. They change managers. Whenever you change managers, you get like a bump. And they own Boston. They're 7-3 against Boston.
Not fair enough. So, AL Central, you have your top 3 teams that are 3 games apart. The Twins have been struggling lately. They're only 50 and 44. Both the White Sox and Guardians have been playing better of late. Who wins that division?
I would have to see what they decide to do at the trade deadline, but I think Minnesota figures it. I think they hold on.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota does win. I'm still kind of hoping the White Sox catch fire in the second half. They kind of found the rhythm closing out the first half against the Twinkies.
White Sox are 7-3 over their last 10. Minnesota is 3-7 over their last 10. Cleveland is 6-4. So, White Sox have the best record in their last 10 games. They're back to 500. I mean, I just don't know if La Russa can keep him. I just don't know what the deal with Tony La Russa is. If he's
I think you and every other White Sox fan right now are asking that same question, including myself.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the hottest team in baseball, a team that we thought was dead beginning of the season. The Seattle Mariners have won 14 straight games, 51-42, still 9 games back of Houston. In the wild card, they're actually a game ahead of Toronto for the second wild card spot. They're a half a game behind the Rays for the top wild card spot. Do you think the Mariners can keep this hot streak going in the second half, and can they catch Houston?
No. They cannot catch Houston. They are still 3 games under 500 against teams over 500, while the Astros are 7 games over 500 against teams above 500. The Mariners do have an impressive run differential of plus 36, which would be second in the AL East, and they would be tied for second in the AL East, but the AL East all has better records against teams above 500, at least in the top half. Anyway, what were you saying?
I think the Mariners will keep this well. I don't think they'll overtake Houston, but I do think they have a very good chance to snap the longest playoff drought in baseball this year.
For sure.
They're over
For sure.
I believe a 20-year drought in baseball. Last made the playoffs in 2001 when they had that incredible 116-game season where they pretty much just ran away with the AL West. Swept the White Sox in the ALDS before losing out to the Yankees in the ALCS. Let's go over to the National League, Chris. The NL East. The Mets have a 2.5-game lead over the Braves. The Braves have been playing good. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Mets are 6-4 in their last 10. Both ended with a loss to close out the second half. Are the Mets worried about the Braves catching them and overtaking them in that division?
I mean, they always have to worry about the Braves. They're a tough team. Mets have the head-to-head record right now. I want to say it's – let's see here. It is 4-3 Mets right now, so it's not a massive difference, but they do hold the head-to-head record lead. The Braves' strength of schedule, especially in June, was like teams that were playing like 300 baseball. So the Mets will play all those same teams in September, in late August, September this year. So we'll see. They still play each other another like 14 times this season. So it's going to be a good race. It's going to depend on what both teams do at the trade deadline. And if the Mets get Jake DeGrom back, who keeps getting pushed back, he has made multiple rehab starts, but after his last one, his muscles were sore because he throws 100 miles a fucking hour, and you're going to get sore muscles from that. So suck it up, Jake. Get back on the field. But he has been pushed back now, and probably won't make his debut until at least the Subway Series, which I think is the very end of July. Yeah. So it's going to be a tight race. I think it's up for grabs. Right now, Mets hold the advantage. They did beat Atlanta 2-1 in Atlanta. And then the other series they had was split. So it'll be a good race.
A good race indeed. Let's go to the NL Central. The Brewers have a half-game lead over the Cardinals. Brewers are 3-7 in their last 10. They're on a 3-game lose streak. Cardinals are 6-4, winners of 2 straight. Can the Cardinals run away with this division in the second half? I say yes. I think the Cardinals have the momentum going into the first half. They got 2 of the best players in the league on Goldschmidt and Arenado at the corners. When you have that good defense on the field, I think you can go a long way. So I think the Cardinals can pretty much run away with the NL Central in the second half.
Yeah, they definitely can. They have a plus 65 run differential to the Brewers plus 25. Brewers have a good pitching staff, has not been fully healthy. Um, both teams are not, don't have winning records against teams above 500. Brewers actually have a little bit better of a record, but like you said, Adam, St. Louis is hitting their stride and has probably a much better offense with Goldschmidt and Arenado. Like a lot of Milwaukee, they're not getting the same production that they did last year out of their players. Yelich still hasn't found that MVP form from several years ago. So, uh, yeah, St. Louis can definitely win this division, run away with it.
Yeah, so we all know the Dodgers are probably going to win the West. They're 60-30 right now. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games above the Padres. But my question is, the Dodgers have the best record in baseball overall, 60-30. The Yankees have the second best record in the American League at 64. Oh, sorry, Yankees have the best record overall, 64-28. Dodgers are behind them, 60-30. Which of these two teams clinches first? Is it the Yankees that clinch first or the Dodgers that clinch first? And we're not talking
first.
Yankees. I'm
Clinch,
not talking
clinch their division first.
I'm talking playoff berth. Like they get in the playoffs. No division, just secure a spot.
Well, the way the Dodgers are going with the separation, they could probably clinch the division first, which would clinch the playoff spot first because there's so many variables now that go into the playoffs that you could still be leading your division but fall out of the playoff race unless you win your division. And the Yankees do have a 13-game separation, so
I mean, I think it could be a coin toss. I mean, either one of the teams could secure a playoff spot end of August, early September, and pretty much coast to a division, bearing injuries, bearing a second half surge by any of the teams that they're facing. So, but as we preview second half, Chris, we have some series that we are going to look at. Let's start with Blue Jays at Boston. Like you said before, Toronto hosts a current season series of 7-3. Toronto at 50-43. Boston at 48-45. You said the Red Sox would be left out of the AL playoffs just with that incredible division they're playing in. And yes, I'm still including Baltimore because they had a good end to the first half. They're playing.
They had a 9-game winning streak. They had a great run.
I think they're overperforming what people were thinking they're going to do. So Baltimore could be making a good run here in the next couple of years. They had some good draft picks over this past weekend. The more I think about it, the more I'm going to have to agree with you on Toronto being the better team over Boston. Like Boston is just too inconsistent. Chris Sale is probably going to be out for another 15, 20 days with a broken finger. He took a line drive off his finger, and he's just having health issues.
Yeah, they're piling up.
If I'm Alex Cora, I look at Sale and say, you know what? He had some good success when he came up with the White Sox in the bullpen. He closed out the 2018 World Series. I would convince Sale just to return to the bullpen, be a long reliever, be like, hey, we're going to put you in the bullpen. We'll have you eat up some innings, maybe 2 or 3 innings a game, depending on how the game's going. But I just wouldn't put him out there to start right now. I think he's very consistent right now, especially with all these injuries piling up. You kind of want to save him.
When Boston's winning, though, their starting pitching is good. You know, Eovaldi and Pivetta are pitching well when they're doing well. So I don't know how much Sale would get a chance at that, but maybe not. I mean, when they're doing poorly, obviously their pitching staff sucks. You know, so that might be a good option for Chris Sale when he comes back, and he needs to stay healthy. He's so thin, man. Surprised
he's a tall, skinny kid.
Yeah,
and he has that very awkward, like not really sidearm delivery, but he kind of comes in like at an angle, almost sidearm.
Very herky jerky.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, if you're a pitching fundamentalist and you're teaching pitching to young kids, I think you throw Sales like try not to do this because you could. That can lead to Tommy John surgery. That could lead to shoulder issues. But every pitcher has their own form. Every pitcher finds their own way of throwing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna say that it's the wrong way to throw because
You can say that.
I mean, I could, but I'm not gonna be 100% confident that.
You're not in the major leagues. You're not Chris Sale.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't get paid to say that.
I get it.
So, if you had to pick Toronto or Boston, I think I know your answer, but who do you got?
Yeah, I already have money on Toronto, so I'm going to stick with Toronto. They're not as scary as they were at the beginning of the year, but if you think about back to last year, they weren't winning a lot of baseball games, but they were scoring a shit more runs. So this year they're winning a little bit more baseball games. They're not scoring at the rate they were last year, but if those things, if they can keep winning the close games without the ton of offense, and their offense starts to come around, and you see Bichette and Guerrero and company, and Biggio and Springer start to hit, they're gonna be tough. Gossman hasn't been Kevin Gossman from last year either. So, and Barrios has been struggy duggy most of the first half. So he's had some better starts lately, but he's still not the Barrios that they signed up for.
No, absolutely not. I think, like you said, the Blue Jays. The manager fire for the Blue Jays came as, I think, a complete shock to baseball when the Blue Jays let him go. And then they obviously are playing a little better. But I'm just going back to Boston, just the slow start they got off to. They're sitting at the bottom of the AL East for a while. Then they had that nice little streak where they got back into the thick of the race. But now they're just kind of tailing off again. Like, it's the inconsistency, I think, of Boston that's going to come back to hurt them later in the season when we get down.
They put together another month of winning 750 baseball, then yeah, they're right back in the thick of things. But damn, that's a lot to ask.
Yeah, and we all know that if you're a baseball fan, August is like one of the hardest months to play in major leagues because of all the pressure, all the trades, call-ups you're going to be having. You're thinking about shutting players down if they're injured. It's a very grinding month for players. Is the month of August.
Mm-hmm. And it's hot.
Yeah, hot as hell. Houston, Seattle, top contenders in the AL West. Houston sits at 59-32. Seattle at 51-42. What do you think about this one? I think this is, out of the three we're going to talk about, this is the most intriguing matchup, in my opinion, coming up this weekend. Seattle's
putting on a Boston show right now. There were a team that we talked about at the beginning of the year as being, pretty good. We thought that they would get out of the playoff drought. They have a lot of talent. Julio Rodriguez, fucking rookie of the year, probably. They won 14 games in a row. But, man, Boston did this shit too. Boston went on a tear. Houston is consistently good and has been good for a long time. If they get Yordan Alvarez back for this series, which I don't know where he's at, he's still on the IL, then Houston's got one of the most stacked lineups in baseball. And it's hard to say that Seattle can contend with them head to head. I'm not saying that they can't be in a dogfight, in that AL West and in that American League to get into the playoffs. That's not the conversation. The conversation for me is head to head against Houston. Can they do it? And I don't see it yet. I don't think Seattle's quite there yet. I don't think they have the pitching to get through that Houston lineup. On the flip side, Houston's pitching has been very good this year with Urquidy and Garcia and the other guys, Verlander. So I don't think that Seattle's there yet. If Houston doesn't have Alvarez, I think Seattle has a chance. It's their first head-to-head meeting of the year. It's in Seattle, so I give Seattle a little bit more of a chance this weekend, but I still think Houston wins 2-1, especially after having some good karma, if you're into that kind of thing, giving Paul Blackburn a ride to the All-Star game because the fucking cheap ass Athletics were going to send the man coach to an All-Star game. Coach, hey, go fly Southwest, buddy. And the Astros are like, nah, bro, just come hop on our private jet. Don't worry.
Yeah, that was interesting. But I think you make some good points about Seattle. They're just so young right now. I mean, we thought that they had a chance last year to sneak in with that second wild card spot, but just kind of fell a little short. They had that slow start, just like Boston. They got off to a slow start. It took them a lot longer to get that to find that rhythm. But once they found that rhythm, good Lord, I mean, they're just winning games left and right, walk-off fashion, blowing teams out of the water over the last 14 games. But as much as I hate Houston, and we know on this podcast we are not fans of Houston, they're just so damn good. I mean, Dusty Baker is such a good manager. He has that team clicking for the last two. What's he been the manager? 3 years now with that team?
So I just want to talk about Seattle's streak, and they did beat Toronto 4 games in a row. So I won't, and they beat San Diego in a short series out there. But this all started July 2nd with a win over Oakland, and then another win over Oakland. Then they beat San Diego twice. Good win, but San Diego's kind of fallen flat on their face lately too. Swept Toronto in 4. Then they beat the Nationals. Not really that impressive. They beat the Texas Rangers. Texas is okay. They're not quite there yet. They have, that expensive middle infield, but these aren't teams like they're not sweeping Houston. They're not sweeping the Yankees. They're not. Toronto's that's a big series win. I feel like that was in Seattle. Yeah, that was in Seattle, right? Because we talked about that series and we thought it was going to split. Or we thought Toronto was going to win that series 3-1, and then that was when Toronto fired their manager. So
yeah, that's when the Blue Jays had that firing, and then Seattle just started that fun run they're on.
We'll see, man. I right now I'll give the edge to Houston 2-1 in this series, but Seattle. I want to keep watching Seattle. They're a fun baseball team, and I talked about this a few weeks ago about people on the West Coast not watching the game if you're sitting behind the plate. So I watched this Mariners game against, I don't remember who, but of course I had money on it because, that's why I was watching it so intently. But it was, I think Seattle was tied going into, or they were down 1 going into the bottom of the 9th. That entire stadium, Adam, was on its feet. Everybody behind home plate was and the stadium was jam-packed. Everybody was pumped up. So kudos to Seattle for being good sports fans. Let's get them a basketball team. Bring back the Supersonics. Let's go. But no, Seattle's a fun team to watch. Yeah, lots of good young talent. Looking forward to watching them for the next few years to come. Grew up a big Griffey Jr. fan, so it's always fun to see the guys in navy blue and teal do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say those teal jerseys that the Mariners wear. I'm so glad they brought those jerseys back because I remember if you're a fan of the Mariners from the early '90s, you had Griffey wearing those jerseys, Rodriguez when he was coming up with the Mariners,
Jay
Buhner, Randy Johnson.
Man, so we'll talk about. Go ahead, because I'll talk about this during the Mets preview. And we'll bring up unit in a little bit too, because this is a fucking interesting stat.
So, I mean, I like the Mariners. I definitely think with that third wild card, it plays in their advantage this season. I think they do have a good shot of getting that third, at least that third wild card spot. I would love to see maybe secure that top wild card spot and at least get home field advantage, because the fans of Seattle, they have been dying for a playoff team. They have been missing playoff baseball since 2001 when they had Ichiro, Rodriguez, Griffey had He had just departed for Cincinnati a year earlier. But they are dying for a playoff baseball team.
Yeah, 100%. They deserve it. Seattle sports fans are good at supporting their teams, so looking forward to that. So I'll tie it in with Randy Johnson, one of the best strikeout pitchers ever in baseball, along with Nolan Ryan, and then you have like Pedro Martinez and Mets pitcher, former Dodger, former National, Max Scherzer. So Max Scherzer last week threw an 11 strikeout game. So it was his 108th game in the major leagues with over 10 strikeouts. He needs like one more to pass Pedro Martinez for third most games with over 10 strikeouts. So he'll be at 109. How many 10 strikeout games do you think Randy Johnson has?
10 strikeout games. Okay, so if I'm thinking about this, he had a good career in Seattle. He did play a half season with the Astros in 98, helped them to the division title in 98. I think a lot of people remember him from his time in Arizona. He has 2 seasons in New York with the Yankees, back with Arizona, then finished up with the Giants. 10-game strikeouts. Kind of up at the end of the season, end of his career. I'm going to go with at least 13 10-game strikeouts.
No. How many total games?
Oh, total games.
Games that he's had over 10 strikeouts.
Total.
So Pedro
games.
Martinez and Scherzer have 108 each.
108. I'm going to say more. I'm going to say he had like 120.
So he had 212.
Jesus Christ.
And Nolan Ryan is above him. Nolan Ryan also pitched for like 100 years. So I'll just tell you, Nolan Ryan had like 225 or something ridiculous like that. Like nobody's catching those two.
No one's catching. I mean, with today's game being as it is, being more analytic, being more based on statistics, there's no way a pitcher is going to be catching Pedro or Nolan Ryan or even Randy Johnson. It's just not possible right now with the way that coaches are coaching, with players being a little more statistical focus on how many innings they're pitching, how many pitches are throwing. Yeah, that's not happening. Had you had that back in the day, I think it would be a little different, but it's Nolan Ryan. He 7 no-hitters and a knockout of Robin Ventura.
Biggest highlight of his career. So speaking of Matt Scherzer and the Mets, they will take on the San Diego Padres for our final series preview. This one is in New York. The Padres won the first series 2-1 in San Diego. The Mets are 6-4 over their last 10. Padres are 4-6. Padres 10 games back of the Dodgers for the NL West. The Mets lead the NL East, as Adam said earlier, by 2.5 games over the Braves. Adam, how do you see this series playing out for both teams, and what does their second half look like for you?
So the Mets, I still think, are going to run away with this division. I mean, not run away. I still think they're going to win the NL East. I still like that. I still like their makeup of the team. I think Buck Showalter has done a fantastic job with the Mets. The only thing is Scherzer's back, right? Max Scherzer's back off the IL, right?
Oh, yeah. He's had 3 games. All 3 have been great.
Okay. Scherzer's back. I think he's going to have a good second half. Syndergaard is the question mark.
Syndergaard? DeGrom.
Sorry, that's what I meant. They're both injured throughout the entire season. It's hard to keep track of your injured pitchers. So
one doesn't pitch there anymore. One's in.
Yeah.
Anaheim.
But when they were anyway, DeGrom, I think is the question mark of the Mets. Just can he get back on that mound? If he gets back on the mound, I think the Mets have the better pitching staff than the Braves do. If he's not on the mound, I have to give the edge to Atlanta. I think they're kind of picking up where they left off with last year's run the second half. I think they got their offense is back. They had Acuna Jr. and Ozuna back, hitting pretty much everything they see in sight. They losing Jock Peterson to the Giants wasn't that big of a deal. They bring in Matt Olson, who's been doing a pretty good job replacing Freddie Freeman at first base. But yeah, DeGrom, if he gets back on the mound and he pitches like we know he can pitch, he'll be the reason why the Mets win that division, in my opinion.
Not the impending trade of Juan Soto to the Mets.
I mean, future Hall of Famer Juan Soto to the Mets that you kept saying over this past weekend during the home run derby.
Yep, that's the one.
That's the one. Okay. When I flipped the coin to San Diego, this team doesn't feel like San Diego without Tatis Jr. in it, though. I mean, you got Machado, you got Eric Hosmer, who's playing okay. If they get Tatis Jr. back, is he going to be that same player that we saw back in 2020, 2019, where he was just absolutely destroying the baseball? And if I see another tweet about how the White Sox traded him to the Padres, I'm going to lose my shit.
Is that true?
Yeah. Tatis was drafted by the White Sox. Man. And he was traded for James Shields.
Who? Jamie Shields?
Yeah.
Where's he now?
Don't know. Don't care. Yeah, but we get reminded every year that Tatis was a White Sox, but now a Pirate. You know what? No one cares anymore. That was long in the past.
Yeah. I mean, but if you're going to was he viewed as a top prospect then?
I don't think he was viewed as a top prospect. No one knew that he was going to have this incredible career when he got up to the big leagues. No one knew that he was going to be this impactful in San Diego. So it's hard to tell a prospect's going to be an impact player once they make it to the league. It's ridiculously impossible to do that.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, but, I'll give the Mets the edge in this series just because I think the Mets are playing good. I mean, some of the trades they brought in, I still wish they would have kept Javi Baez. I think he coming over to the Mets last year. You don't think so?
No. What's he done in Detroit, man? Like,
I
kind of feel bad for him. Like, I mean, I get you got to get paid, but like, man, Detroit's bad, and like you got to like, it's Detroit. It's just not. I don't know, man. I think I kind of wish the Mets had never traded for him. In all honesty, looking back on it, they gave up another young outfielder to get him, and once again emptied the barrel in the farm system. So, I mean, I know the Mets are going to make some trades at the deadline. We'll just see how much and what they can do. And if DeGrom comes back, it's definitely going to propel them into a division, that's like the Braves are tough no matter what. But with DeGrom, I think it does make it that much easier on the Mets. But I mean, we're halfway through the fucking season already, dude. We still haven't seen this guy, and things keep getting pushed back. So it's hard to be optimistic that he is going to come back and be the dominant Jake DeGrom that he's been in the past. As far as this series goes, the other pitchers in New York have been pitching well. We had a good last few starts out of David Peterson. Cookie Carrasco has been pitching really well. Taijuan Walker had a great first half. So Chris Bassett is a great pitcher as well. So they have a good starting staff right now. You add DeGrom into that, and it's going to be even better. And then Tyler McGill comes back at some point. If they do somehow make an absolute monster splash and trade for Juan Soto, which I just don't see how that happens, especially interdivision, Mets have to be the favorite to at least win the National League, or compete very heavily with the Dodgers to win the National League.
Yeah, I think the Mets are still your clear favorite. I think the Braves can get in with the wild card. I think the Braves have the better chance of getting a top wild card seed. I don't see any other team in the National League catching the Braves. Looking at the standings right now for the wild card. Atlanta has a 6 games ahead of San Diego. San Diego's 2 games above Philadelphia and St. Louis, who are tied. San Francisco, Miami, Colorado, and Arizona are your next 4 teams who are within 10 games of the third wild card spot. So, I mean, it's just not a strong wild card competition as we saw last year, but this is what I love about the second half. You're going to get this incredible wild card chase towards the end because we've seen it the last 3 to 4 years, excluding 2020 because that was just we're going to pick 8 teams and get into the playoffs. So you finish under 500, you can still get in. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the second half. I'm excited for the second half because I think we're going to see some great games, great series, some great storylines coming through. And we got the trade deadline coming up. So we're going to get this second half started. That's all I'm going to say.
Definitely. Well, everyone, keep an eye on our Twitter page. We'll be following and breaking all the news we can. Not breaking, obviously, we're not news sources, but we will retweet all of the breaking news as the deadline approaches. Adam and I both have travel plans next weekend, next Wednesday. So it is the summer. People travel. We have lives outside of the podcast, but we'll keep everybody up to date. Hit us up on Twitter. Interact with us. We love talking baseball. Myself at Shy Bears 1985. Mr. Kunos at Kunos19 and at the Bullpen Pod on Twitter. Again, find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Like, subscribe, love us, or leave us, whatever. But until next time, we will talk to you after the trade deadline on August 3rd. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a good night. We'll see you in August.